Hi guys, Dre'Jon Williams here. Today, you're going to watch me build up the whole entire route of the 20 track route with intersection and turn lanes. So, here's a new session, a new route. We're going to name it the um, 20 track route, as you see. And then we're going to also name it, the session name will be the 20 track session. Okay? And then we're going to set up the default region to United States since that's where I live. And then we hit OK. And now we get started. So here's our route. So far so good. This is just the beginning. Just before we extend everything out and stuff like that. So that's gonna be, you want to make sure that you have the long side out first before you put out train tracks. So first things first, we're gonna put out the land. Started going this way. That way we have enough room for the tracks and the trains and all that good stuff. Okay? Now we'll do the other side. And we're gonna also make sure we have room for the intersection. So we're gonna go right down the middle, as you see here. And do the same thing to the other side. Okay? And that'll do it. We have like a little intersection in the route so far. That marks our territory of where the intersection is going to go. Alright? So we're going to extend out a little bit more land so we can have more track room. And I'm going to close up some of the little gaps around, as you see in the video. As you see here. And then we'll start adding our jointed rail tracks. I use the ST jointed rail tracks. You can get those off the jointed rail website. They're on the, I believe, trackside items. And that's where we're going to start laying out our first few tracks, okay? Of course, I'm going to extend some more land so we can have some more room, okay? Because there's 20 tracks. That's quite a bit of tracks. So we're just going to start laying out our first track. But first, I have to take a little break. Feeling not feeling too good right now. We'll be laying out that first track as soon as we get back, okay? So I'm going to take just a little pause, and we'll be right back after this, okay? Alright guys, sorry about that, just not feeling too well right now. But we'll be right back, alright? Alrighty guys, welcome back. I feel a little bit better now. And now we're going to go ahead and start building out the route. Yay! So let's get started. So we're going to extend, oh I'm sorry, we're going to actually go ahead and start out laying out track. So we're going to make sure we're not in the vicinity of the wrong gate side. And here's our track 1. As you're going to see, we're stretching it all the way out across the whole entire route. As you can see, we extended the land out, so we have plenty of room to make the route, make some awesome trains and stuff like that. Be careful, guys. Do not try to click on the track again, the next track there. So here's our second track. They're a little bit spaced out because you don't want your tracks to cling onto each other. Now you do not have to use the track that I'm using in this route. You can use, there's some double track on your trains. On your trains, a new era track space. If you want to make it easier. But I normally just use, special track. I lay it out myself. It's better like that. But if some of y'all just want to use, the default track, you can. Doesn't really matter. But anyway, here's our third track right here. Okay, and then we'll place it there. Make sure it's in place, and then we'll make sure it's a little bit space in between the splines, and we'll place our fourth track right on in. Alright, and now we'll put it into place. So we have 4 tracks. So far so good. I'm gonna move these tracks around a little bit so they can be a little bit closer, but not too close because we still need gaps in for the railroad crossing. Alright, so as you see, we have our first four tracks. Now we're gonna add track 5. You always want to make sure your tracks are nice and close. I mean, it's up to you if you want, make sure it's up to you if you want to have a little space in between. If you don't want to have a little space in between. But for me, for being a 20 track route, you kind of want to make sure your tracks are nice and spacious and spaced out, okay? Then we're going to move track 1 over here, as you see there. And I'm going to make sure the rest of them look good. So I'm going to move track 2 a little bit. I'm going to move track 3 over and up. I'm going to move track 4 over and move track 5, the track we just placed, over. Alright, so now we should go ahead and add a new track. That'll be our track 6. Stretch it all the way out. Now you're going to watch me build this route from start to finish. So hopefully you can enjoy me watching, me work here. Since the 20 track route is a nice route I was promising to put on YouTube. So here it is, and I'm going to show you how to build it and put it together. Moving some tracks around there. Here's track 7. Now you're going to have a lot of railroad crossings. You're going to have a lot of triggers. You're going to have a lot of stoppers. Make sure your stoppers are in line with each other. Sometime in the video, later on in the video, you'll see me kind of mess up on the stoppers a little bit with the roads. Okay, right now we're gonna go ahead and just put our tracks out. So we're gonna go ahead and do that first. Put our tracks out. Now, guys, if you want to, that's only if you want to, you can put track access points to different tracks. Now, that's only up to you, or you can just copy my idea. That's fine. But so far, so good. This looks pretty promising. Okay, there's our next track. I believe this is track 9 now. Now be careful, for some reason the game kind of lags up when you just put so many tracks down. And then here's our next track right here. Make sure it's not connected to the other track. So now we're stretching out this track here. I believe this will be our halfway point. Place the track not too close, not so way that don't spline onto each other. And make sure it clicks in. Sometimes it doesn't want to click. There you go. And that is our first track. Our track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5, track 6, track 7, track 8, track 9, and track 10. So that's our first half of the 20 track route. That's our first 10 tracks. We have 10 more to put out. I'm going to close the gap here. Okay, make the route look a little bit more better. Don't look so bad. We still have our little intersection land. That's where our intersection is gonna go. And then I'm also gonna go ahead and get ready for to build our next track. So here's track 11. Stretching track 11 on out. Like I said, if you want to do it the easy way, there's some double tracks that's already enabled into the game. Just find them, put them in, and yeah, just put them in, and it'll work. It'll still work the way. It's just, if you want to make it easier, that's fine. If you want to do like this is okay too. Alright, so we're putting out track 12. The second half of our tracks. Here's track 13. Stretching it all the way out. Alright. Track 14. Sorry about that. The game lagged up a little bit there. It's supposed to be a gaming computer, but it runs so slow. They don't like all those. It doesn't really like, the game doesn't really like the 15 track, all the extra track. It doesn't like all that track. So you see there, I'm trying to adjust the track a little bit. Now some of these tracks are slanted, but that's okay. That's kind of what you're gonna get, if you're not paying attention, like I did. But it's easier if you just went on ahead and just keep going. So we're gonna go ahead and build our next track, track 15, I believe. And we're gonna turn around, stretch her out. This was a lot of work, guys. In the end, you'll see all the completed work. If you haven't seen the my 10-track route with gates and intersection, the 6-track route, and I have an updated version of the 5-track route and a new 15-track route. Check them out on YouTube under my channel. I have a Trains 12 version of the 6-track route and a Tane version of the 6-track route with gates and intersection with a intersection and turn lanes. Okay, that's our first 15 tracks right there, as you can see. Alright. Now, you see, we're just going to make sure all the tracks look pretty darn good. And then we're going to go ahead and start off at this end over here. And then we have just a few more tracks to put out. So here's track 16. So we stretch out our next track. Make sure you don't put them too close, or they'll clamp onto each other. And I know that won't be good. So just go slowly. And I did accidentally put these crossings a little bit too, these tracks a little bit too close. So if you end up doing that, that's okay. Now remember, if you use those double tracks, you won't be able to use all those extra crossings. Okay? So you want to make sure you don't end up doing that. Make sure you have enough space. Make sure you put your tracks out by yourself. Make sure there's enough space in between the tracks there. Okay? So here's track 17. We're going to stretch that on out now. So we'll stretch that puppy out, and we're gonna put it right there. There's our. Then we're gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna move it over. And then we'll put out our next track. The game's lagging up a little bit because it's just so many tracks. There's so many. Oh, it's overwhelmed with so many tracks already. I mean, what are you gonna expect? It's a 20-track route. Then we're gonna move it over. If I can grab it, there we go. And that's our first 18 so far. 2 more. Track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5, track 6, track 7, track 8, track 9, track 10, track 11, track 12, track 13, track 14, track 15, track 16, 17, and track 18. So we have 2 more tracks. And then we can get started with the roads. So here's track 19. Oh, yep, make sure you don't do that, guys. That'll make it a mess. And then you have to restart it all over again. Yep. Make sure you don't clamp your tracks too close, or they end up merging with the other track, and it'll just be a big mess that you have to fix. And then you have to redo the whole track from the beginning. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure they're spaced out enough. Make sure they don't clamp onto each other, and you should be Gucci. And here's our last track, track 20. Now to you, this might look like a yard, but there's no switches, there's no signals, there's not a whole bunch of train cars sitting. This is just a plain old 20-track route with river crossings in the middle to stop all traffic. Now you could be saying, well, why did you just do 20 tracks and just did crossings on both sides? Well, the only problem with that is cars spawn in the middle of the tracks with those stoppers, and that's the reason why you do not want to do that, because in the cars that stop in the middle, the cars won't be able to stop in the middle, and it's not going to be able to pass. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure the cars can stop at all the crossings and all the tracks, so you don't have that mess. Okay? Now we're looking for a 4-lane road. We're going to decide to go ahead and do the side street, a 4-lane, one-way road, as you see there. And we're going to go ahead and stretch it out from the back there. And we're going to, oh, if it didn't grab, sorry, there you go. So we're going to stretch it out from the back, and we're going to move it all the way back. Plug it in. And then our next lanes will come through here. Now with so many crossings, so many tracks, and then so many crossings are going to be in, make sure you delete the road in the middle, like put a spline in it and climb it into the middle there. And then we're just going to extend the lane, the roads here. Alright. So that looks good there. Right now, for our side street, we'll use the regular 2-lane, one-way roads. You want to make sure they're close, a little bit closer to the track, not so far. That way, they don't have to stretch. You don't have to see it from so far away. So we're going to stretch out the 2-lane, one-way road. And then I'm also going to use one of my new roads that I actually found, that I used in my old train game on my old computer. That was this one right here, Road Freeway 01. If you recognize this one is actually from the game, my old train game. When I was on the Houston, Texas route, you want to see that road in person, me using them, and you want to just watch me build that route. I have all 6 parts of it on YouTube. The only part that's missing is part 2, and I don't have it anymore. I actually lost that part 2. Really wanted to upload to YouTube. Being it too long. But this one's gonna be too long, so I'm hoping YouTube will take it. All right. So we have our roads out, as you can see. Make sure they're wide enough. You want to make sure they're wide enough for turn lanes. Since this route will have turn lanes, you want to make sure the roads are wide enough to have turn lanes right in the middle. So you want to make sure you go back to your intersection, make sure they're wide enough to have turn lanes, and then the turn lanes have to cross the tracks, or the cars won't spawn at the turn lanes. Now, what I'm going to tell you, turn lanes are going to be a little bit messy, as you'll see when I start building the turn lanes later on in the route. So now we'll go back to our objects, and we'll go to our ATLS. We'll go to controllers, and we'll click that out. So you want to have your controllers that's control all 20 tracks. All 20 tracks. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and we're going to start adding 20 controllers. Well, actually, we have to add another controller later on. You'll see that in the video. We have to actually add 20. Actually, we have to add 21. Because I forgot about the backlights for one of the crossings. So make sure, if you want to have your stopper and your controllers in line, just put them in line with each other. That way they won't be so messy. It'll look a little bit decent. That's up to you, though. That's totally up to you. You can put your controllers anywhere. If you want them on the tracks, you can put them on the tracks. But just beware, it's going to be a little hard to try and grab them. If you want them on the tracks, you put them on the tracks. And guys, later on in the video, you're going to see something that I should have not done. So, I'm going to explain that once we get further in. Okay? Alright. So, we're then add our next 10. Now, what I didn't notice until later on, that I actually needed another controller for the backlights. It was 20 tracks, but I gotta have the backlights for channel 20 for the backlights for track 20. Now, the first controller is the main crossing controller that turns off the gate crossings. That activated the gated crossings on both sides of the route of the 20 tracks. There's a few more gated crossings on there. Excuse me. There's a few more gated crossings you'll see in the game as we go, and they will put a controller here for the traffic light intersection. See, the cars are starting to come onto the roads now. Alright. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to be using the ATLS NRC traffic stoppers. This is what we're going to be using for our route. Just one stopper. Make sure you put about a few of them. Make sure your stoppers are in line. I have a problem with that. Sometimes I never keep these stoppers in line, and that's why you see the way the cars go. And that's why they're never straight. So we've got quite a bit of stoppers to put out, including the ones for the intersection. So let's just watch me put these out. Just watch me put these up, and yeah. This is to stop traffic on all 20 tracks in between. And then you have your stopper for the track, like one for the left turn, and once, of course, you have to do the same thing. Gotta add those same stoppers right there in the middle. You want to go ahead and add your ATLS stopper now before you lay out the turn lanes. Just go ahead and start laying out all of the stoppers before you do anything else. Okay? So just start laying out your stoppers for the turn lane. And these are just for the turn lane. You're going to need crossings for those turn lanes too. In the video you'll see I have a few gate and gateless, but you want to make sure you have some crossings, at least on either both sides of the turn lane or one side of the turn. And make sure you pay attention. Pay attention. Okay? Alright guys, just watch me do some work. I'll be right back. So as you see, we have all of our stoppers out now with for all 20 tracks. I'm just checking to make sure we have 20 and not 21 because we don't want to, then I have to rename the route 21 track route. So as you see, we have our turn lanes out. We have the stoppers for our turn traffic. You want to make sure the stoppers are turned correctly because the cars are going to end up spawning and they're going to be turning the wrong way, and you don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure you turn all of them, just the ones on the other side. The ones going the other way are facing correctly. They automatically do that. But you want to make sure the rest of your stoppers are turned the right way, right? So turn them all around. Make sure they're straight. Sometimes there's a problem with that too. You gotta make sure they're straight. Now once you do that to all the other stoppers, you gotta do the same thing to the road stoppers and to all the stoppers on the route, because they're not gonna be facing the right way. And then when you put the when you implement the roads, they're not gonna look right, and then the car is gonna end up spawning going one way, and you got cars going the right way and cars going the wrong way. So you want to make sure you get that part right, alright? So make sure you turn all of them around. So they're all turned correctly, so they way the cars will spawn correctly and there won't be any complications. Now we're turning the rest of the stuffers around. Now we have added all of them for the road, and we're just making sure they're all facing correctly. Now we're gonna go ahead and add them for the main traffic. Move it over just quite a bit, and then we'll do the same thing to the other side. There's one here, got one for the road. The left one is for the turn lane. Gonna make sure they're turned around the correct way. Move it over a little bit, and then I'm gonna move over the straight one. I need to get away. There we go. And now we have all your stoppers out. Sorry for the buffer, it's just a game. Alright, so now to get all of these stoppers connected to the road, what you're gonna have to do, because this is the easiest way to do it without messing up, you're gonna have to put a spline in, split the spline. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, make sure you put another spline on the other side. Okay? Yeah, split the spline, and then you're going to move one portion of the road over. You're going to delete the road in the middle. See, that leaves one spline left over for the other one. And we're going to go ahead and connect that spline to the stopper. Now, all we do now is we grab this road, and we'll connect the road to the stoppers that's already down. And as you can see, some of the stoppers ain't straight. That's okay. Just make sure all your stoppers are in. Make sure that all the roads connect to the stoppers incorrectly. Okay? Pay attention closely, because these splines are a little hard to see, especially when they're the same. You know, for Trains 12, there was like different colors for the splines. But no, these splines are all the same. So be careful, watch closely, and make sure all the splines are in correctly. Okay? Make sure they end up connecting by themselves. If they don't, that's okay. Just, you know, move it into the stopper. It'll normally do it automatically to itself. And just to make sure that this is just perfect. Now, see, like I said, it's a little crooked, so make them straight if you can. If you can't, that's okay. Leave them the way they are. But if you're a neat freak, then you can go ahead and straighten them up as you go. Now, like I said, this side was already nice and neat. So all you do now is just making sure that your stoppers are connected. As you see in the video, I am moving around the stoppers just to make sure they're nice and straight. I know a lot of them are not, but that's okay. Just, you know, you want to try to get done with trying to get the things done. You move them around as you need to. If you need to move them, you can. Now, that way the cars won't go crazy, won't be like unexpected curves around your crossing there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish connecting these stoppers, and I'm going to go ahead and connect the road right there, and I'm going to connect the rest of the road to the stopper until I just messed up there. And there we go. Now you can move around your stoppers now since they're connected to the roads. The roads are connected to them, so now you can make the adjustments of your stoppers if you want to. You can make the adjustments of your stoppers of where they are. Make sure you want to make sure to be nice and neat. That way your roads won't end up with those unexpected curves, okay? So now, since that side is done, now I'm gonna go ahead and move to the other side here, and gonna move up the stoppers a little bit. Just wanna make sure everything is straight and make sure everything looks good. If you want, then we're just gonna go ahead and add a spline here. We're gonna split that spline, and then we're gonna I'm sorry. And then we're gonna go to the other side here. I'm just noticing that the rows are not gonna be wide enough, but there I go. I am now moving the roads out, and just making sure that we're still gonna have enough room for the turn lanes. So not gonna delete the road yet, because I got to go put this another spline on the other side of the road to make sure we do not lose our road, and then we got to redo it from the beginning, and that won't be good. Okay? So we split the spline, we added the spline line in it, we split the spline, and now we're gonna move the spline after it's split. Make sure it's split before you do it, and then we're gonna delete the road in the middle. Connect that one to the stopper. The other way you should, if you wanted to, you could connect it from the road and then go from there. As you see, I have to make sure the cars are going on the right way. Because if not, then it will be going the wrong way. And God knows that won't be good. So make sure your roads are going the correct way. So, cars don't end up going the wrong way on your roads, and then it'll just be a hot mess on your hands. As you can see, here's my mistake there. I connected the roads incorrectly because the cars were starting to spawn and going the wrong way. So we're just gonna go ahead and just turn around here, face the other way. Now after a while, you're gonna have to move your controllers. Controllers are kind of gonna be a little bit in the way. But once you find it out, make sure your roads are facing the correct way, and then you can go ahead and start adding the road to the stoppers. Make sure you click on the right one. If you don't, then it's gonna end up looking bad, and then you go like, you're gonna be like, oh no, I messed up. Make sure that doesn't happen. All right. Now, if you want to, if you're a neat freak, you can go ahead and straighten up your stoppers as you go. On some of my routes, they're not even straight. I just left them the way they are because I didn't really mind the way they're set. I mean, everything is not going to be perfect, so it's up to you. If you want to make sure they look nice and look good, then go ahead and fix them up. I'm not a neat freak, but I want my route to look. I want everything to look perfect. Okay. So straight. We'll go ahead and keep adding the roads. I'll keep moving around the control. I will keep moving around the the stoppers itself, just to make them look a little bit decent and straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add the rest of these in to the stoppers, and that's it. Now, I did not do this one, so what we do now is we'll put a spline, we'll split it, and we'll connect the stopper to the road, as you see right here. Alright, and that's it for that one. Now, on to the side streets. Now, if you're a neat freak, like I said, you can go ahead and move them around, check it around, make sure everything looks straight. If it ain't straight, that's okay. Just try to rotate it around, try to make it look good. If you can't get it, go straight. That's okay, because I had a problem with that too. So if they're not straight enough for you, then that's okay. That's just because the way you rotated them, it's probably just not rotated perfectly. It don't have to be perfect. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. But, just make sure everything looks straight and stuff like that. And if you have to rotate one of the stoppers, that's okay. You can do that too. As you see in here, I have to rotate one of them just to make sure to see if I can get it as straight as possible. I didn't get them all straight as possible. If they're just crooked like that, just leave them like that. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect, guys. You don't have to be perfect at all. Alright? So, I'm straightening them up as we go, making them look a little bit decent, not looking so bad. And then after this, we'll get started with the side streets and then turn lanes, as you see in the video here. Alright, now we do the main road stoppers. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to add a spline, split the spline, move the road into the stopper, as you see there. We're going to do the same thing to the other side as soon as I straighten it up a little bit. Sometimes you want to make sure your main road is straight. If your side road's not straight, that's okay. It's just because you have so many stoppers. So then you want to go ahead and do the same exact thing to your other side. We're going to put the spline in it, split it, move it into the stopper. Connect the road to the stopper. Check and see, make sure it's straight. Make sure you still have enough room to add the turn lanes. And now we're gonna go back into here, straighten it up a little bit, just so we can have enough room for turn lanes on both sides. Now type in for our turn lanes. Now it's time for us to do our turn lanes. So for our turn lanes, I started using the US freeway, one lane, one road, one lane, one way. And that's what I use for my turn lanes now. I don't use the 2 lanes, one way, which you saw me lighting up in my cursor there. I do not use those anymore. Once I found these roads, I started adding the I started to add up the ones on I started using the 1 lane, one way. They kind of drive a little bit faster on this road because it's a US freeway road, but they'll slow down as soon as they get on to the merging street, and they won't be perfect in their lane, as you see there when the car spawned it. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and connect our turn lane to these 20 stoppers. No, 21 out of 21 stoppers. I'm just moving them around to make sure they're straight. And we're gonna go ahead and start adding the road to the stop, our turn lane to the stop. So like I said, straighten them up if you want to. You're a neat freak, and you want your turn lanes looking perfect. You can do that. But I'm just an ordinary person. It doesn't really matter to me. As long as it looks nice and it's perfect and it's finished, that's all that really matters. I'll put my time and my effort to fix it up later on. But right now, we just want to get done with it. As you can see, I'm moving the stoppers around to the tracks. This is this way that the car stops at the stopper correctly. And we're gonna make sure that the tracks are connected correctly as well. So make sure you don't skip anything, and make sure that the stoppers are on the correct track. And when you put your slaves out, make sure your slaves and your track erasers are perfectly corrected. Make sure it's perfectly corrected, and make sure everything is working as it's supposed to. If not, then it's gonna be a hot mess, and crossings are not gonna activate, and then you're gonna have one failure route. Okay. Like I say, you don't have to put crossings in the middle if you don't want to. You don't have to add turn lanes if you don't want to. Heck, if you don't want to add stoppers, you don't have to do that either. Just make sure that it looks at least a little bit decent. If you don't want to add turn lanes because it's too much work, that's okay. You don't have to. I'm just showing you how it works with turn lanes. As you can see, I'm having a little bit problems with my computer. It's just because we got so much going on the route, and my train game's kind of been open for the last few days, so it's been running a little bit sluggish because I don't close my train game out when I close the lid down on my computer. So it kind of runs a little slow and a little sluggish, but it's okay. And it also does that because of the recording, because of me recording the game. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and connect the rest of the road, our turn lane, to the stoppers, as you see here. Okay, then we're going to switch it out. Do not spline the turn lane onto the other road. If you do that, all your traffic will be diverted to go into that turn lane, and then all the cars that spawn from the back of the road, everything will be turning left, and you don't want that to happen because it's not going to be fun. Now, if you want to, that's okay, but I would suggest not to do that if you want the cars to spawn correctly, okay? Alright. So I'm just double checking to make sure everything looks good before we get started with the next turn lane. Always make sure your turn lanes are straight. You don't want any curves in your road, okay? So now I'm starting from the back, and we're gonna go ahead and start our next turn lanes. Just make sure everything is straight. If you're a neat freak, you can go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with being neat, guys. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm just trying to get the route. I was just trying to get the route done. So I did all the tweaking I need to do. I recorded some of the tweaking that I did in the route. Yeah, I got to see that. Make sure it's straight. If you want it straight, you get it straight. Okay, then when I go ahead and straighten the road there, the roads always kind of get a little crooked in the back when you add a spline. when you add another road spline into your other road, kind of makes a mess. It kind of makes your road kind of, it makes your road kind of spline a little bit different, a little weird too. But you know, if you want to, that's okay. You can just straighten it up if you have to, and do what you need to do. And like I said, the game's a little lagging. It's just because it's a big route. It's got a lot of tracks. It's got a lot of stoppers. It's gonna have a lot of crossings, triggers, and it's gonna have the traffic lights included. So, but if you have a slower computer, it's gonna lag most of the way. Now, if you have like a 2.8 like I do or higher, should be okay. Your processor should be able to take that. Shouldn't have any kind of lags or anything like that, unless you use shadows, which kind of lags your train game just a little bit. So, now I'm not recommending not using shadows. That's up to you. That's totally up to you. Okay? Remember, just make sure the traffic lights look good, and you know, make sure the roads are straight. Make sure your stoppers look good. Make sure the roads, all the roads are connected to the stoppers. Okay? And don't forget none of them, because they are hard to fix later. As you can see, I'm just straightening up the stoppers there. So just some of them are a little bit crooked, and I've straightened them before I add the roads in. Okay. So we'll go ahead and finish up adding our turn lanes. See what I'm talking about right there? Straighten up the stoppers if you have to, because sometimes they'll be out of angle, and sometimes they'll have that little curve. Now, to make sure that the cars go the right way, check to make sure that make sure the yellow white lines on the roads are going in the correct direction. If not, then you're gonna have cars spawning and going the wrong way, and you don't want that. So we're just about done with our next turn lanes through the railroad crossings. I'm straightening up some of the stoppers as we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the rest of the go ahead and start adding the rest of them. As you see there, I'm straightening them up as we go. So it kind of messes up a little bit there. That's okay. If it doesn't straighten up perfect for you, that's fine. Just leave it alone, let it be. Fix it later. If you're not bothered by it, good. That's okay. If you're bothered by it, go ahead and move it around if you need to. Alright. So we're going ahead and straighten them up. Guys, I'm going to give you a heads up. This thing only records about an hour at a time. So the video is going to stop. It's going to, the building process is going to stop interrupted. And it's going to be interrupted. And you're not going to see the rest of me trying to connect the turn lanes. That's okay. I believe I started the next video. I'll use Windows Movie Maker before I upload this to YouTube, just to make sure everything is working correctly. Maybe seeing everything's looking good before I add the movie in. This thing did take about 2 days and 3 hours, according to the video, as you see. Took a little while, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the turn lanes, and the video is gonna stop eruptively, and it's just gonna do that because this thing only takes an hour. This thing only has about an hour of runtime, of recording time, so it's okay. The next video you should be seeing railroad crossings getting put out, and all the good stuff that we did. So anyway, thanks for watching this portion. The next one should pop up on your screens after a little while. Alrighty guys, so as you can see in the video, I have finished all, I've gotten all the crossings at the beginning, and there's a mix of gates, one with gates, some gateless. I'm just gonna go ahead and put out the last few crossings for the other side of the track before we get started with the ATLS controllers, before we get started with the controllers. So we're going to put some gateless crossings. We're going to use the gated Xene Griswold 8x20. We're going to use it for both sides, both sides of the track. We'll put some backlights on one portion of it, as you see here. Make sure you rotate the crossings so that way they'll be facing the correct way, the crossing bug and everything else. So this route has a mixture of SafeTran and the regular BNSF 50 crossings. That's the majority of the route I have used. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have all the crossings for every track. And then just want to make sure, just double checking to make sure all the crossings are there before we get to the traffic lights. And then that's what we'll get started with after we get as soon as I make sure all the crossings are here. Okay, and then I'll add extra crossings if needed. If there's a little gap, I'll add extra crossings there. Okay, so that's the extra crossings are there. Now just making sure everything looks neat. So it's a mixture of gates and gateless crossings and gated crossings. Only reason why I started doing a lot more gateless than gated is because gates tend to get on the tracks, and that can be a complete mess. So we went on ahead and just put that there. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and put on some backlights to activate on the back tracks, and then we're gonna connect it to the Griswold. I actually used the wrong lights. Just found out I used the wrong lights. They wasn't connecting to the thing, so I took them out, deleted it, and put the correct lights in. But those are the wrong lights. I'm supposed to use Griswold, so I accidentally used the wrong light. So here's the pair of lights I'm supposed to use, the 8x20. Those are the lights that are on the crossing itself. So then all you got to do is go ahead and just move them in. You don't have to rotate them or anything. Should be already facing the right way. If your route's a little bit different, then rotate them to face the correct way. And then make sure that the lights on the back lights are connected correctly. Sometimes it'll be not on there all the way, and it'll look like that when you get started with your route. Now I believe I did not slap any lights on the other crossings that's sitting there, due to the fact that both crossings are facing backwards. I also went on ahead and got rid of the gated crossing for the other side, just after the traffic lights, to a gateless, since the crossing bug was not facing on the correct way. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and just turn around. I'm going to slap some more lights onto the other back. Accidentally hit the crossing, my bad. So now here's the lights, and then I'm going to move them over into the regular railroad crossing. In Tane, they're a little bit hard to grab those lights, so just keep playing around with them until you can grab them. You can get these lights off the DLS, they're right off of there. just search of BNSF 50. You should find all his content on the download station. Just make sure that your lights are on there correct, just like the way they are on the crossing itself. So that way they won't look like, that way it looks like you didn't even put lights on the back of it. Okay? Now I'm just double checking everything, make sure everything looks pretty decent and good. Checking everything out. Yeah, don't worry about putting backlights on that crossing. I know those crossings, those lights will blink while the main gates are down. That's because there's no way to cut them off. There is a way to cut them. There's no way to cut them off because that's the way the crossing is on there. So those will be flashing while the backlights are on, or that track 20 crossings are activated. It will activate with track 20 and route and channel 1, which is the main controller. Okay. Now we'll come back to the other side, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to add lights onto the back of this crossing right here. So I'm going to add them. We're going to turn them around if they're not facing the correct way, making sure they're straight. And then I'm going to move them over. And I'm going to move them in, making sure they're in line with each other. Alright. And then once what I do to one side, I do to the other side. When you connect the stoppers, when you connect the lights to the main railroad crossing, or when you connect the slave, when you move the ATLS track erasers from the slave, make sure those lights are connected. Sometimes those lights are hard to grab. So just keep playing with it until you be able to clamp it on. And then once you clamp it on, it'll be perfect. They should flash inside driver, so it shouldn't be a problem. Then I'm gonna do the same thing to this side. Add some backlights to the back of this crossing. Those will only flash when track 1 is actually activated on channel 2. And then make sure that they're connected correctly. Make sure they don't look like why are they out? You don't want them to look like what did I do? What did I just do wrong here? Just make sure everything looks good, okay? Now just double check to make sure everything is looking good. I'm kind of a little bit distracted. I'm kind of watching South Park on TV on my phone here. Just a little distraction there. I believe we'll be getting to the traffic lights here in just a little while. Okay. And you always want to double check to make sure everybody has a railroad crossing in front of the track. It's gonna look pretty close together, but it should be okay. It should be alright. Now, we're gonna go ahead and add our traffic lights. We're back at the intersection. Remember, if you add turn lanes into your route, it's going to look a little messy. It's not going to look perfect. But we're going to go ahead and put our traffic lights out. We're going to do the basic traffic lights today. So we're going to be using the ATLS lights and the ATLS USA, the DDL, the DD, or the DY, the DYL. So we're going to be using our basic traffic light setup. I showed you the setup. I showed y'all the setup. The setup. I showed y'all the setup in my video of ASB crossover session. That's on YouTube. So that's the basic traffic lights that we're using today. So we're gonna add that light here. We gotta make sure it's in line. Turn it around so it looks facing correctly. And then I'm gonna turn the other ones around. Then we're gonna add the turn light. That's for our turn. That's the turn light for the turn lane. Okay. Then we're gonna move over here. So that turn light's for that turn lane right there. It's not looking perfect, but it's okay. It don't have to be perfect. Then we're gonna go ahead and add your next two lights right here. Mix them up if you want to. If you want to use some of KJ 3400's traffic lights, you can. I just didn't use them in this route. Make sure you have the poles set up. And you can find those traffic signal gantries on the DLS under traffic signal gantry. And if you look under ATLS, you can go to your content manager and get all this under download station. Just type it in the search box on the top right corner. And if you want to find some, if you're trying to find some ATLS things, or if you're trying to find the gantries, just type it in on that far right corner box, and you can download it from the content manager on Trains the New Era. I believe you can do the same thing with Trains 12. So if you're looking for the gantries, if you're looking for the extra traffic lights, or if you live in the UK, or if you live in the in the States, if you live in the States, or you live in the foreign countries that use those river crossings that you see, you can use they have some of those up on the ATLS. You can just use those, like the level crossings, level grade crossings and stuff like that. You can use those in the you can find those in the download station tab in your content manager and Tane, and you can find it in Trains 12 as well. So everything looks pretty good. Turn lanes all okay. Traffic lights, I'm making sure that everything looks straight and looks good. Make sure the traffic lights are in their line. Make sure the lights covers the whole lane. I know that the other lights, they don't really cover the whole 4 lanes of the road, but that's okay. In real life, they don't do that in real life anyway. So you want to make sure that your traffic lights look straight. Make sure everything looks good. If you need to move them over some, you can. I'm trying to straighten up this. I'm trying to straighten up these stoppers here, making sure everything looks okay. Now, if you want to, you can add an ATLS lights here. If you want to have like a double left turn or something like that. If you want to have 2 turn lights, that's okay. You can have them right there. If you don't, then 1 turn light will do. Right, and then that's our controller over there for our intersection, which we'll get to later on. Alrighty, now we're gonna go ahead and start setting up our railroad crossings. So our first controller. No, I'm sorry, moving it around. We're gonna be typing in the box main controller You might want to do this too to make sure you know which one is the main controller. If you remember to now let me tell you what main controller. Main controller is for track the gated crossings for track 1 and track 20. Okay, and then you just hit the plus arrow for the first channel, and you hit the minus button to pop up the LCM level crossing mode, and then just hit OK. Make sure you name your controllers. They're easier to remember if you like have a malfunction or something of the sort. If you didn't do anything right, you have your controller name and you have the channel number also and logged into your controller. It'll be it's easier like that, because I have kind of had malfunctions in the past. So just make sure everything looks pretty good, and just make sure everything looks good. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just name all of these controllers. We're gonna set them up to level crossing mode, as you see in the video here. And we're gonna go ahead and finish up and get these changed out. Okay. And remember what controller you're on. Sometimes you can get confused if you don't pay attention. At the end, you'll see I have to put another controller in for the backlights for track 20. You see that towards the end of the video here. So we have channel 7, track, I believe track 6. Track 7, channel 8. 8, hit the routes button -1. That's for level crossing mode. As you can see, level crossing mode selected. And then you click OK. Just a little bit distracted. Sorry. Just give me a while. I'll pay attention after a while. Alright, so now I have the slaves out, and we're gonna go ahead and start setting them up. I just noticed towards the testing of the video here, just found out that I had to delete all my slaves and restart from the beginning because half my railroad crossings didn't work when I went into test. So, in the video, if you saw that I had to add a extra controller, yep, I forgot about the backlights for the for track 20. So if you saw the video, there was an extra controller added. And always double check your work. Like they say in school, double check your work. Well, this, you got to double check your work. If you don't, if you get something, it's gonna be one pain in the butt for you. Always double check your work. And never put your slaves too far away from the railroad crossing, because I had to rearrange everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. That was a pain in the butt. And then we'll connect the slaves to the stoppers. Later on, you'll see what the mistake was. Some of the crossings didn't activate when the trigger hit. One of them, I forgot to set the channel or set the routes to -1 for level crossing mode. You'll see that happen too. That happened to channel 19. Just giving y'all a heads up to look for some mistakes in here later in the video. And there's the new channel 21. Alright, so all the slaves are on. Now we're just gonna be connecting the slaves to the correct crossings. So we have channel 1 to connect to the stoppers and the crossings for channel 1. Make sure it does not connect to the backlights, because there was a problem with that in this game. And make sure your slaves are not so far away, because the range of the slave erasers, they don't really go that far, so it will mess up. Like I said, be careful. Do not let it connect to the backlights. Make sure you connect the slave erasers to. Make sure you connect the track erasers to the correct crossing. Otherwise, you'll have your backlights turned on while the channel 1 is activated, while your gate crossings are activated, which will just mess up the whole thing. So double check your work. Check to make sure you're doing the right thing. gonna go ahead and just start connecting everything, and once everything's connected, we should be good to go. And then we'll set up the traffic lights once I get all the slaves connected. Now, as you see later on, you'll see I had to reset all the slaves. I accidentally messed up. I forgot to I forgot that some of those crossings did not work, did not activate. It's because the slaves were too far, and the track erasers only goes a limit. And I don't know what the limit actually is, but it doesn't stretch out too far from the slave itself, so it will kind of mess up a little bit, and then you will have to start over and put slaves next to them. Only way the crossings will actually activate. So you'll see that later on in the video. So, just a little spoiler alert, if you will. You'll catch that mistake as we go on in the building of this route here. We're connecting the correct slaves to the correct crossing, the correct track crossing, and all that other stuff. I will go off camera to do the triggers, and then we'll come back on testing once the triggers are all set up, and we'll do the test to make sure our crossings work, make sure our stoppers work, and so on and so forth. Now be careful. It can't be hard to get lost when you're connecting your crossings to your slaves. They're a little bit hard. You'll get caught off guard a little bit, but you should be okay after you figure it out. Make sure you don't connect it to the original track. I had that problem, as you saw. It's very easy to spawn a junction on the it's kind of easy to spawn a junction on your main tracks, so just be careful and pay attention. just connecting to make sure we're connecting the correct um, crossings on the right track, the stoppers as well. It's kind of hard, so make sure you pay attention closely. And it should be okay. Alright. Now, as soon as I finish with all of the connecting the um, track erasers to the crossings from the sleigh, we'll get started with the phasing of the traffic light, okay? Alright. We'll see y'all after a bit after we finish up. Alrighty guys, so the crossings are all done, and now we're about to go ahead and do the intersection. So as you see at the top, I have the 20 track route intersection up on the top there. It will be for channel, so we named it 20 track route intersection. And we're going to be putting in channel number 22. That's the next channel on our list. And we're going to be using, today we're going to be using the more advanced ATLS kind of routes and phases. So today we're going to do the 13 route 6 phases. I should see the video here. We're going to, in just a second, once I figure out what am I doing. I guess I'm being distracted. So it's gonna consist of turn lights going first and straight light, route 1 and 3, and then route 6 and 5, as you're about to see now. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start adding 13. Go ahead and start adding 13. Go ahead and start adding 13 routes. And 6 phases. That's how many phases you can have on the route. No more than 6, I believe. You can't go over 6 phases. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and start phasing out the traffic lights. So route 1 there. And then we have Route 2. That is for the side street left turn. Route 3 is for the Route 1 left turn traffic. The top green means that the light will remain green. Yeah, the first two phases are for the turn light to be green, and then the second phase on Route 1 is to keep the straight lights green. After that, it'll go down to Route 6. Route 6 will go green. Route 5 is the left turn. Just to ignore Route 4. That's what I have to put in just to make sure that the traffic lights do what it's supposed to. If not, then it'll be red. So yeah. So you have your Route 4 come down. Your Route 5 is your left turn. Your Route 6 is the straight through traffic. Route 6 and 5 will change. After that, you have your Route 2 and your Route 7. Your Route 2 is your turn light. Route 7 is the turn, also with the turn traffic and your straight traffic. You ignore Route 8. Route 8 is nothing. There's a glitch on this game. For some reason, I don't know why. Every time I put Route 8 right there, it messes up. So we're just gonna skip Route 8, leave Route 8 red, all red. It'll be okay. You'll see what happens. If you put Route 8 in, it will mess up. Trust me, it will. It doesn't do that in Trains 12. It does that in Tane, and I have no clue why. Just weird phasing. But then you want to go ahead and have Route 9 for your left turn. After Route 10, the Route 11, and Route 12 is your through traffic. You're just going to copy everything you see from Route 4 through 6. You also do that for Route 1 through 3. You do for Route 7 through 9, except you skip Route 8. And then on SPL, on ATLS, Route 1 and Route 6, which is the main street traffic, will have the green light while all 20 tracks are activated, or while the main gate is activated. So Route 1 and Route 6 is both through traffic for the main road. And now we're going to go ahead and set up the bottom for your railroad crossing. So then we click down here for phase timings. So we're going to go ahead, since we have turn lanes, we're going to have to make sure that the turn lanes are long enough for everybody to turn. So we're going to do 15 seconds for Route 1, for phase 1. Phase 2, we'll have a total amount of 40 seconds, I believe so. So we're going to do this one 40 seconds to make sure the through traffic has a long enough phase. And then our turn traffic will also have, it will also have 10 seconds. And then 18 seconds. Now that 18 is for track clearance. It would have been a full 20 seconds, but we took 2 seconds out to make sure we have enough time for track clearance, just in case you even want a little track clearance in your game. So if you want to leave it 20 seconds, you can. That's fine. In real life, they don't really do 20 seconds. They normally do like 15 or 7 or 12 seconds in real life. But in this game, since we don't implement since there's no real track clearance, there's no way to make to have a track clearance green before the crossings activate in real life. In trains, you're just gonna have to make sure the timing is perfect. Make sure your trains activate the crossing before while the Route 7 and Route 2 are green, or in your case, your Route 1 or Route 3, or the way you have your light set up. Okay, and then we're gonna do 35 seconds for the main traffic on the side street. 35 seconds. That's also for track clearance, just in case the trains hit late. And then 15 seconds for your left turn traffic on Route 11. In America, 5-second gap delay is correct. In some states it could be 6 seconds. In some states it could be shorter. Um, but in the U.S. the gap delay is 5 seconds. If you start counting down as soon as a traffic light turns yellow, you start counting from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and if it turns green like that, that tells you that it is 5 seconds. Now, for some intersections, it's 6 seconds. Some of them might be longer. Some of them might be shorter. But most of your traffic lights in your city or your town or in your state is 5 seconds. So use 5 seconds because that's the American way. Now, if you use the UK version or something else, you have to have the R, that extra yellow in. You can have that extra yellow in your face if you want to. Just make sure it's in the traffic lights. There's no way to put it in the controller. So, just make sure that your gap delay is 5 seconds if you live in the U.S. or you live in any other place that has traffic lights that go red, green, that goes red, yellow, green, and then green, yellow, red. Since that's what you use here in the U.S. and the UK, and in other little towns and states and capital and other little towns and cities and states and all that good stuff. In foreign countries, they use the other extra yellow, and the traffic lights might be a little bit different, and your drivers might be driving on the other side of the roads. So just look out for that, and you should be good. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and start setting up our traffic lights. We're gonna go ahead and turn them on. So we're gonna get started with the first ATLS lights. That's our first turn lanes. Now in the ATLS lights, as you're about to see here, if you change as you can see, it has the red, yellow, green, yellow. You want to change that to just red, yellow, green, which would change all of the ATLS lights you have in your route. That would change every one of them. That way you don't have to change it again. So you want to make sure it's RAGA, not RA whatever it is for the other one. You want to make sure it's RAGA if you live in the United States. So but that way you'll see that your traffic lights look American, the American way, the way they work in real life. So this is our turn light. So we'll turn it into a turn light, and our turn light route is Route 3. It'll change. There you go. You see as it changes there. And then we'll have our main straight lights on Route 1 on channel 22. And these traffic lights, you can tell they're already set up to have that setup of green, yellow, red, or red, green, yellow. As you see, this ATLS lights has already been changed out. So you should have any problems setting them up, setting the rest of your ATLS lights up. And with these traffic lights, they're already set up like that. You don't have to worry about changing it over unless you want to. These traffic lights can be changed over to the red, yellow to show up at the same time, then green, then yellow. So red A, G, A, and then R. So that's your turn light. I added those little goodies. If you want to, you can put a base on it. You can put a sensor on it. The sensor is non-functional. So the sensors do not work. They do not work in the game, but it just makes your traffic lights look a little bit more lively. Yeah, those sensors do not work. There's no such thing as sensors in this game because everything works on ATLS. So you don't have to worry about sensors, setting up sensors. I mean, it'll be nice to have sensors in the game, but it'll be hard to try to figure out and also configure it with ATLS. So it's easier just to keep it with system. Okay, so we're on Route 7. We just set it up the traffic lights for Route 7. As you see there, Route 7 is the ones facing after all 20 tracks, and then you have the other ones uh, going towards the tracks. The ones facing the tracks in front, those are the ones that you want to have for track clearance. Always have those ones. You can mix them up if you want. That's totally up to you. That's if you want to. So we're gonna go ahead and set up the straight line traffic there on Route 12. So Route 12 is your other through traffic. Route 11 and 12 are together. When they change yellow and red, then Route 1 and 3 should pop up green. And the traffic lights are already cycling, as you see now. So they're cycling around just to make sure everything is set correctly. So as you see now, Route 2 and Route 7 are green right now. So that's in a plant at 18 seconds, and then Route 12 will be green right there. That's your Route 12. Your Route 7 and 12 are green at the same time. Route 7 changes, and then Route 11 goes green afterwards. After that, it'll go back to Route 1 and 3, and it will keep doing that over and over again, non-stop. Okay, now we have your slaves are already out, so we're gonna go ahead and start setting them up to. We have 2 of them. Now there's one for your turn lane, and there's one for the main road. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure you know what your turn lane is. Make sure you know what your turn lane route is, because you're gonna need them. Now, if you didn't have turn lanes, then you only need 4 slaves. But for this particular route, I just wanted to put turn lanes in just to show you how turn lanes work. And go ahead and start connecting your slaves after you put them in. Go ahead and start naming them. Go ahead and start connecting them to the correct stoppers, so that way there won't be any complications later. I would suggest to go ahead and start connecting them as soon as you finish setting them up. It's easier, and it's just a little bit more easier for you to do. Okay, so go ahead and start setting them up. Route 2 and Route 7. We're going to go ahead and connect 5 and 6. That is the other side of the traffic. Now the 12 Route 6 phases is easy. Now if you think it's a little bit too complicated, or if you want to try to use a complicated thing, I can also show you how to do that. I have to work around with it a little bit, but I can show you how to make more complicated than just the 13 Route 6 phases. If you want your turn lights to go first, and then your turn light and then you want your straight light to go after your the turn light phases is over, while the turn light is still green, I can show you how to do that too. That's easy. It's a little bit complicated because you got to pay attention, and you got to make sure the phasing is correct, because if not, then it's going to be one hot mess. So always make sure your the traffic lights will be already working, so that'll help you out with the phasing of the in the main controller, in the main intersection controller. So that'll help you out. So use it to your advantage. Those traffic lights are there to help you, to make sure the phasing is correct. Make sure the phasing is on there the right way. Okay? So our traffic lights are good. Our crossings are set. So now, the only thing we do now is we add the triggers. And the only thing we start setting up is the triggers. And we start setting up the triggers, and then we'll do the trains afterwards. Now I will go off camera to do the triggers because the triggers take a little while. Also take some focus. So we'll do the triggers off camera. Okay? So we will do triggers off camera. They're a little bit. It's easier just to do it off camera than on camera. It's a little bit harder to try to do it on camera because you know you gotta make sure everything is set correctly. So we'll go off camera and we'll do the triggers, and then the next video will come on right afterwards, and we'll have the trigger set up. The tracks are long enough so we can have some nice long trains on here. After all this, the route looks pretty good. Almost done. We just gotta get triggers out, and then you'll see in the next video. You'll see the triggers out, and they're all set, and then we'll just put out trains. And we'll go company by company. As you can see, I'm moving some stoppers. I'm moving some stoppers around, just making them look straight, make sure they're on the track, stuff like that. If you have a little time left, before you put your triggers up on the tracks, you can go ahead and start moving around your crossings. Go ahead and start moving around some of your stoppers. If you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just doing it just to pass a little time. I'm also just want to make sure the route looks good, make sure it's neat and tidy, and you know, it's not looking so too bad, because then if it's too bad, then you can tell it will show. It will show. Just a heads up there. If you have a little time left, you can go ahead and start moving around stuff. Now, as you make sure everything is connected, make sure all the slaves look good. If we ran out of slave, if we don't have any more slaves to stretch out, that's okay. We have a lot of slave we got a lot of track erasers around. So now the only thing you have to make sure that everything is connected when game starts. So make sure everything is connected when the game starts. Okay. So now I've forgotten that the lights, one of the backlights were not connected. So I went on ahead and connected it from a stopper. Those backlights actually did not work. I had to actually redo it from the beginning. You'll see it later on in the video as we go on. I had to redo all of the slaves. So you'll see that later on. I did have a few game crashes at the time, so I don't know if the videos will pop up or not. If not, then I'll just notify you that I've changed all the slaves and we moved stuff around in the game here, and yeah. So all 20 tracks are here. And everything's ready to go. We'll put triggers up off camera. It'll be easier to do it off camera than on. So we'll be taking care of that off camera, okay? And after that, we'll set up the trains. And yeah, that should be it right there, guys. And next video, you should be seeing, you should start seeing the triggers pop up, and that'll be it. We'll be done with the route. Then we'll put the trains out, and then it'll be ready for testing. Yay! It'll be ready for testing. So we'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, guys. Have a great one. Alrighty, gang. Our triggers are out. I went off camera and got all the triggers out, and they're all set up and ready to go. So Every channel is set. It's all set correctly. Everything's looking good. And now we can go ahead and get started with our trains. So if we go down here to probably a little bit further out from the triggers, you go to your train tab and you click on any train you want. I start off with a Union Pacific. That's mostly the trains I like to use. It's the Union Pacific train. You can use any train you want, but make sure you have enough. Make sure you use different trains for your tracks. So as you see here, I put out a Union Pacific. I can't really tell what it is. I believe it's an SD59, SDM59. It's one of the trains you can find on the DLS. It's a freeware, so you can just download them all, have them on your route there, and you can use different ones. You don't have to use the same ones. You use different trains if you want. Go ahead and just start putting out different trains, and make sure you connect the trains correctly. Make sure they're facing the right way. As you can see, I had some problems with trains right there. Also, just ignore the mouse cursor. I don't know what happened. The new patch for trains, a new error came out a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what makes the cursor does that. So just ignore it. We're putting out some auto racks. Now we're gonna put out a back engine, and now we're gonna go ahead and put the next train for track 2. And we're just gonna sit and watch, and we're gonna go ahead and put the rest of the trains out. So we're gonna go ahead and start using the next engine company, which is now out of business. Well, actually now out of business all the way. Union Pacific actually just took over, so that's Southern Pacific. Union Pacific actually took over Southern Pacific. So SP, UP, you see them a little bit. You can tell the difference in the mix of trains. If you rail fan in real life, you can tell between different trains. You might be lucky to see an SP route, SP engine. You might not be lucky. Might not be lucky and catch a SP engine. But Southern Pacific, you can still see some engines out, even though Union Pacific really took it over them. But you'll still see some of their engines. And, some of them will be ex-UP, some of them will be ex-Union Pacific, some of them will be, Southern Pacific, Union Pacific, something like that, or Union Pacific, that's Southern Pacific. So you're gonna see some of those kind of engines out there in real life. If you want to, you can go ahead and use that. It's only if you want to. Now, when I went ahead and deleted that engine, I decided to just do a single engine only. I actually changed my mind as we got deeper into the building here. You can see I'm putting some different cars down. I'm putting a few auto racks in. I'm doing a few things. I'm going to make the route look more lively. Stuff like that. Continue watching me put the trains together, okay? save, and it's ready. We've actually saved it now, and now everything is ready for testing. All triggers are set, all stoppers are set, all slaves are set, traffic lights are set and ready to go. So now all we do now is get ready to test. So next video you should be able to see the everything in action, and we'll go from there. Hey guys, appreciate y'all. You ready for the testing of the route, okay? Alright guys, and welcome to the driver. Now we're about to test everything out. So we're gonna use our first train. It says at the bottom we're gonna use the BNSF. I did not use that train. I did use a different train. I used the first train on the first track. That's the first one I made. So we're gonna pull up our trains here, and we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and start driving everybody. Just to check some changes, just to make sure all the trains go. Just the first, I believe the first 4 or 5. We just want to make sure all crossings work. I probably have my videos a little bit mixed up, so we did have some crossings that did not activate. We're probably gonna see some of the crossings. They're kind of gonna be all mixed up here. This is just the last few videos here. They're a little bit mixed up. So in one video you'll see the mistakes, in another video you will see the changes. But I did show some of the mistakes, so just be prepared for that. Here's the crossing. Engage. Okay, there goes track 20. Sorry, track 20 is activated. And there's 2 tracks down there that just activated. 2 crossings down there that just activated. I did have to remap all of the gates. Track 19 wasn't still working unfortunately. Found out that the rest of them look pretty good. The rest of the other 3 tracks are active. I believe that's track 3 and track 4. A few of them that I have to change around just a bit since they were off. So now we're going to go out of driver here because track 19 wasn't still working. Okay, so we're back in game. As you can see, all of our slaves has been changed out. We actually have some corrupted slaves, so we had to reconnect everything. That was also corrupted track erasers, so we had to delete everything and redo with the whole track 1 and the whole channel 1 and channel 2 crossings near track 1, since all of them went corrupted on me. As you saw at the beginning of the video, at the beginning of the session of the edit session. As soon as the session started back up for editing, you can see the slaves have all been moved. I deleted all of them. Like I said, the videos are a little bit mixed up, so you'll see the changes a little later on. I'll narrate my way through it, and yeah. So we're showing all of the changes. I have to redo the whole track 1 crossings. They're all messed up. They went corrupted on me. I don't know what happened, but everything, it just went kablooey. I also moved the slaves over near the railroad crossings themselves and setting them all up there, as you can see. Double checking to make sure that I'm using the right ones. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and start connecting track 1. Yep, be careful. We'll clamp onto the wrong lights. We'll clamp onto the back lights. Be careful. And then we'll do that. So I got frustrated a few times. Just take your time. Make sure you clamp onto the crossing. There we go. It's all there. Now we're gonna go ahead and finish her up. That one to that one, then we're gonna connect that one. Okay, had a little problem there. And then we're gonna go and connect that one to that one, and then we're gonna do that one to that one. Okay, so that should take care of that track 1. Now we need to check and see what's going on with track 19. As you can see, it was still not coming on. So track 19 was still out. I checked the slave to make sure the slave was set. Everything's connected correctly. We had one connection problem. I will fix that off camera before uploading it to YouTube. I'm gonna do a quiet version of uploading this route. This 3 hours is just to show y'all all the little changes that we had to do. Excuse me. Just all the little changes I had to show y'all. We just had to make sure that it was set to channel 19, and then I believe later on it was actually a controller problem. The controller wasn't set to level crossing mode at all, so I went on ahead and deleted all the slaves races and reconnect everything. Not knowing that it was an actual controller thing. I believe you'll see that in the video as well. Also, train stopped unexpectedly right here, so we're gonna go ahead and just deal with that right now. Alrighty guys, welcome back again. Sorry about that, trains had an unexpected shutdown. I'll have to take that video out. So we're back in the 20 track route finally after trains unexpectedly stopped on me. And the last thing we was doing was testing the crossings out to make sure everything activates and deactivates. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Getting the first 5 trains out on different tracks. Butters. Alrighty guys, back to the 20 track route once again. I'll fix the changes. Let's see what happens. This is turning into probably like a 2-hour video. Let's get our first few trains out here. Oh, good luck, Kenny. And gates. There we go. Alright, track 19 is working. I'm sorry, track 18 is well, folks, so far so good. From the change that direction of these trains that we rode out. Alright, we just rolled out. We turned around a few trains. We're rolling now 3 more. This is a very massive crossing. let's turn around on the trains and road out. Sorry about that, just trying to get these next 3 trains to go out. And the rest turning around. He's about to leave Cal. He's about to strand. He's about to keep Cal stranded. Excuse the lagging. You got so many cross trains going by, and kind of lagging. Okay. So see, we have a little confusion here with the slaves. We have 2 crossings connected with this crossing, and then the rest of these 3 are working just regular. Okay. So back in Serbia, we've got to disconnect the slaves on both of these crossings. We do it. They're just because they're wrong. They're not connected correctly. We'll go eyeball camera and we'll fix that. And this route should be good. It's done good. Got all the trains going through. Not all of them got on top. About 15 of them going right now. 10 to 15 of them going through right now. Yeah. track the route, build, and test. There's still some tweaks in here that I still need to work, but I'm gonna go off camera and take care of that, alright? I appreciate y'all watching. Thanks so much. Please keep supporting the channel. Subscribe. Any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down in the comment section below. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Dre'Jon out.